Hello, welcome back, and happy Wednesday. We are going to be continuing on our talk of the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment. Can you think back to yesterday's lesson and remember what the First Amendment is and what rights we receive from the First Amendment? If you think back to yesterday, the First Amendment protects 5 important rights. Say 5 important rights. Good. And it protects freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petitioning the government. Yesterday we learned what those 5 rights mean because some of those words might be a little different and we might not have known those yet. If you need a refresher, you can go back and watch the previous video. But we are going to dig deeper into these. Today we are going to be looking at freedom of the press and freedom of religion. So let's go ahead and get started with freedom of the press. Remember yesterday we talked about the press being the media. They are journalists. They are people who are on TV. They write newspaper articles. So what does freedom of the press mean? Let's go ahead and talk about that. Freedom of the press is a promise from the government. It says all journalists and people who report the news have the right to express their opinions and beliefs. This means we can write or print our opinions in newspapers and books. We can also do that on TV and online. So we are able to publish our views. We are able to view stories that happen in our world, and we are able to talk about them without being scared that we are going to get in trouble about them, or without being scared that we might go to jail for what we are saying. I want to talk a little bit more about this though by looking at this page here. So freedom of the press, facts for kids. Again, this is a promise by the government not to punish journalists and other people who work with the news for doing their job, because that's what journalists are trying to do. They're trying to do their job, and they are trying to make sure that the public have all the information. It is an idea similar to freedom of speech, and it lets people express their opinions or beliefs. Many countries have laws or constitutional amendments protecting the freedom of the press. The word press in the phrase comes from the printing press, because a long time ago, before we had technology like we do today, in order to print newspapers, they would press them down on this machine and make lots and lots of newspapers from what it was called the printing press. If I click on this, it will actually show me a cool picture of this old machine, the printing press. So, restrictions. Yes, we have freedom of the press. We can say what we want. However, we cannot make up stories. You could still be in trouble if you put something in the press and you know it's not true. So let's read this next passage. Like freedom of speech, freedom of press does not protect everything that a journal writes. A journalist can be sued for libel, which is publishing false and damaging claims about a person. So that means if you are writing a news story and you know something is not true, but you put it out there anyways, then people might think it's true, and you can't do that. That's against the law, and you could get in trouble for that. Let's take a look at this down here. So in some countries, reporting on certain topics is prevented, and it is restricted by the government. So yes, we have freedom of the press here, and yes, we can talk about anything that happens in our world, and our news media is always going to be there to share our stories. That's not always the case. If we look at this map right here, this is a map that shows areas of the world that have freedoms of the press where they're able to speak their mind. Do you see the United States of America on this map? If you're looking right here, there we are in Michigan, right in the middle of the United States, right here. And what color are we? We're yellow. We're a greenish bluish color. So let's look at our key, because when we're looking at a graph, we want to look at our key here that's going to tell us a little bit what's going on. So more restraints and less restraints. This means less restraints are, you have more freedoms with these colors. So the very light blue, you are going to have the most freedoms. Down below, red is going to be, you don't have a lot of freedom in the press. If you say something negative about the government, even if it's true, you could really get in trouble. So looking at America here, we're greenish, so we have less restraints, but we still have some restrictions like I talked about before, where if you are saying something that is not true, you still could get in trouble with the government. And if you look on this map of the world, there are places where it's red, right? You can see over here, China is one of those places that is bright red. They do not have a lot of freedom in the press. If they were to say something negative about the government, they could get in trouble for doing that. All right, next thing we want to talk about today is freedom of religion. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. The First Amendment states that we have freedoms of religion. Americans have the right to worship in their own way. We are free to worship how or where we want. We have the responsibility to respect each other's beliefs. So there are many religions within our world. And here in the United States, you cannot get in trouble for what religion you practice or what church you go to. You are able to pick whatever religion you want to practice, and you can go to church, you can participate in the religious holiday, whatever you would like to do in terms of that religion, you can do it because in America you have that freedom. I'm going to read this again. Freedom of religion facts for kids. When people have the freedom of religion, they can either belong to any religion they choose, or they can belong to no religion at all. Where there is no freedom of religion, people can be punished or persecuted for not having the right religion. Communist countries such as Cuba, North Korea, and China have also punished people for religious activities. So here in America, you are able to practice whatever religion you would like and whatever your family believes in. Again, in other countries, not everybody has that same freedom. You could get in trouble if you did not practice a certain religion that country's leader wants you to participate in. So again, this is why our founding fathers, like George Washington, put these into our Constitution because they thought it was so important for us to have freedom of religion and have our freedom of the press, because they knew other countries weren't doing this, and they wanted to make sure our citizens here in America were able to have these certain rights. All right, after this video, you are going to go in and complete your discussion board posting. Have a great day.